Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. I hope you've had a good weekend and gotten to enjoy void battles. I am back from my trip and I've been able to clear out all of the limited endeavors for void battles, so I'm just working on finishing off the treasure trade now. My plan for this week is that tomorrow I'll probably do some test streaming of Manticore, and on Wednesday I'll announce a time where I'll do some streaming of Void Zephyr. For today I'm just going to show you my gameplay of Wandering Shroom and Steel Golem in single player. And I want to just make this video to ask what you think about void battles so far, and to give my very first impressions. So I'll start off right away with two positives. One is, I think the rewards from void battles are really good. The treasure trade has some amazing items, and if you haven't been able to access that, remember you need to beat Chapter 7 of the game's story. Hop into the campaign and Ronzel will talk to you. After that, you should be able to access the treasure trade menu no problem. So there's a new dragon, there's a facility, there's lots of precious materials like Champion's Testament, Moonlight Stones, Steel Bricks, and so on, and I actually think it's well worth it to clear out any monthly rewards every single month. That does mean we have a limited amount of time for February, but with those limited endeavors, we did get a bit of a head start this month, which should make it easier for you. Now, I do think there's some drawbacks to this in that the game really needs to find ways to make us spend money at this point. Getting these Moonlight Stones in particular makes me way less incentivized to try to summon 4-star dragons. So I do think that's something for the devs to think about, but as a free-to-play player, I love all of the rewards that we get from void battles. Now the second positive I want to mention is the gameplay itself. I like the mechanics, the music, the scenery, the feeling of all of these fights. So I love how the Shroom disperses, I like how Steel Golem has some really quick attacks, I like that the Manticore stops its tells once it's in overdrive, and I like that Void Zephyr is kind of like a mini HMS, including having that red targeted marker which players can learn that they need to stack up on. But that brings me into the negatives because I'm not a fan of the abilities that these bosses inflict. I feel like Dull in particular is really debilitating. It leaves you dealing next to no damage. Dragon Delay takes chunks off your dragon gauge but isn't too bad. The Fury state of Manticore is kind of annoying because it means abilities like Gauge Accelerator or Broken Punisher just have no effect in that fight. So I do feel like it's a bit unfortunate how restrictive these abilities are and how debilitating they are. And that gets me into my final point, which is, I think that those exist just to serve the purpose that people create void weapons, which I found to be kind of a disappointment. Now, while they do fill their role of helping bridge the gap between current harder content and advanced dragon trials, I think they do so in a very ham-fisted way, an inorganic way. It feels really inelegant to me and not parsimonious at all to just see High Midgardstormer Bane on these flame weapons. That seems like something we were moving away from when they got rid of raid boss damage on raid Wyrmprints. So I really am not a fan of the weapons, but it's kind of an unfortunate necessity that unless you're really good at dodging, for instance on any bosses that inflict dull, you're going to want those dull res weapons. So that is kind of my feeling toward void battles right now. Not crazy about the weapons, also the fact that they seem so ad hoc. Certain weapon types don't have access to certain things, certain ones do, and the weapons crafting menu just feels really cluttered to me right now. Maybe I'll change my opinion as I slowly go through it and start to recognize each weapon individually, but that is my take at the moment. I know some of these weapons do have nice outside uses, especially for Vanessa. I've heard her weapon for High Midgardstormer is good. I've heard the Slayer Strength water weapons are good for Flame Imperial Onslaught, but I do feel like they won't really help us come up with new and creative builds, which is something I really value as a player. With all of that said, I want to ask what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Expect more content on void battles this week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.